alien bride sold to repay a debt, but her groom was not what she expected. Commander Jack Reeves rolled his shoulders, feeling the satisfying pop as tension released from his muscles. The tactical vest he wore had been digging into his skin all day during the training exercises, his bare arms tanned and marked with scars from countless battles glistened with sweat in the amber light of the alien sun as he approached the modest dwelling of his old friend Thayan. Nex was one of the few non-humans Jack had genuinely connected with since humanity's explosive entrance onto the galactic stage 15 years ago. The green-skinned Vidian had been a valuable trade partner and occasional drinking buddy despite their cultural differences. "Jack, right on time as always," Thayan called out, his emerald face crinkling. With a smile, come in, I've got that Terran whiskey you like." Jack ducked through the doorway designed for the slightly shorter Vidians. "Damn good to see you, Thayan, it's been too long." The interior was cool and dimly lit, decorated with strange artifacts from across the galaxy, souvenirs from Thayan's days as a merchant captain before settling on this frontier world. They settled into comfortable chairs. When Thayan poured 2 glasses of amber liquid to continued prosperity, Thayan offered raising his glass, "And to friends who don't shoot at you," Jack added with a grin before taking a healthy swallow. The whiskey burned pleasantly down his throat. As they caught up, Jack found himself complaining about the mundane aspects of his life, the parts that had nothing to do with commanding a platoon of humanity's finest soldiers. "I swear, Thayan, between deployments and training, my place is a disaster. I've got a cat that probably thinks I abandoned him half the time. Hell, I barely remembered to feed myself some days, let alone keep things in order." Thayan's expression shifted, becoming thoughtful. He swirled his drink, the amber liquid catching the light. "You know, Jack, I might have a solution to your problem. What, you know, a good cleaning service that works for military credits." Jack laughed. "Better a wife." Jack nearly choked on his drink. "Excuse me, my daughter Amara, she's of age now," and Thayan hesitated, looking uncomfortable. "I've fallen on hard times, Jack. That last shipping venture went south when the Krello pirates hit the Cygnes route. I owe you for backing me all those years ago, and I can't repay what I promised." Jack stared at his friend, waiting for the punchline. When none came, he set his glass down carefully. "You're serious, aren't you, Thayan? That's not how humans do things anymore. It's still a respected tradition among my people," Thayan said defensively. "Amara is educated, skilled in household management, and she would bring honor to your home, and it would clear my debt to you." Jack ran a hand through his short-cropped hair. "This is insane. I can't just buy a wife. Not buying a merger of families, an alliance." Thayan leaned forward. "And she's beautiful, Jack, even by human standards." Jack's mind raced. It was barbaric by Earth standards, yet he knew enough about Vidian culture to understand this wasn't as simple as it seemed. Refusing outright would deeply insult Thayan and potentially damage relations with the entire Vidian community on this outpost. A community that provided crucial support for human military operations, plus there was the practical side, having someone to care for his home, his pet, someone to come back to after missions. I need to think about this," Jack said finally. "Of course, but don't think too long. There are others who would gladly accept such an arrangement." As Jack left his home that night, he couldn't shake the feeling that he'd just been maneuvered into a corner by a master strategist, and despite his modern sensibility screaming against it, a small part of him was intrigued by the proposition. 1 week later, in a room across the settlement, Amara Neck sat before a mirror, silver tears trailing down her vivid green cheeks. Her waist-length silver hair was adorned with small white flowers that trembled with each sob. The flowing cream-colored dress with its plunging neckline, traditional Vidian wedding attire, felt like a prison uniform. "How could he?" she whispered, staring at her reflection. Her lavender eyes were puffy from crying. "How could father sell me to a human like cargo?" She'd heard stories about humans, their aggressive expansion, their frightening adaptability, their strange customs. What would this one do to her? Would she be little more than a servant, or worse? Amara glanced at the window. It wasn't too late to run. There were transport ships leaving for the core worlds daily, or perhaps more drastic measures. The ceremonial dagger on her dressing table gleamed in the soft light. Her hand trembled as she reached for it. But a knock at her door startled her. "It's time, daughter," her father's voice Called with a final shuddering breath, Amara stood if this was to be her fate. She would face it with dignity even if her heart was breaking, but when she entered the ceremonial chamber and saw the human man waiting for her, Amara froze. He was tall, taller than any Vidian. With broad shoulders and a posture that radiated quiet confidence, his face was handsome by any species standards, with strong features softened by surprisingly kind eyes when those eyes met hers. Something unexpected happened. Instead of the disgust or cold calculation she'd feared, she saw curiosity and perhaps a touch of the same nervousness she felt. He smiled at her, a genuine smile that reached his eyes some and bowed slightly in greeting. Amara's tears dried instantly, replaced by a flutter of something she hadn't expected to feel: hope. Perhaps, just perhaps, this arrangement wouldn't be the nightmare she had feared. Jack awoke to the gentle sound of humming coming from downstairs. For a moment he lay still, disoriented, before remembering the events of the previous day. Amara, his new wife, the alien girl with lavender eyes who had gone from tears to fascination in the span of their first meeting. He rolled out of bed, muscles aching pleasantly from yesterday's work, and made his way downstairs. The sight that greeted him stopped him in his tracks. Amara moved gracefully around his kitchen, her silvery hair tied back loosely, wearing one of his old t-shirts that hung like a dress on her slender frame. She turned at his approach, and a blush darkened her green cheeks. "Good morning," she said, her voice musical. "I hope you don't mind. I found some eggs and vegetables." Jack leaned against the door frame, unable to tear his eyes away from her. "Not at all. I'm impressed you figured out the stove." She smiled, revealing perfect white teeth against her emerald skin. "We have similar technology, though yours is charmingly primitive." "Primitive? Huh?" Jack laughed, moving closer. The kitchen suddenly felt much smaller with both of them in it. "I meant no offense," she said quickly, her eyes widening. "None taken." He reached past her for a mug, his arm brushing against hers. The contact sent an unexpected jolt through him, and from Amara's sharp intake of breath, she'd felt it too. They ate breakfast in a silence charged with unspoken tension. Jack found himself studying her when she wasn't looking, the graceful curve of her neck, the way her hair caught the morning light, the delicate points of her slightly elongated ears. "You're starring," she said without looking up. "Sorry," Jack replied, not feeling sorry at all. "You're not what I expected." Amber's lavender met his. "What did you expect?" "I don't know, not someone who makes me forget how to breathe." Her spoon clattered against her bowl. "Humans are very direct with their compliments, only when we mean them," Jack said. Holding her gaze after breakfast, Jack showed her around the property. The morning sun cast long shadows across the yard as they walked side by side, close but not touching. "Your world is beautiful," Amara said, reaching out to touch a flowering bush, "so vibrant and wild, like you," Jack said before he could stop himself. She turned to him, surprise evident on her face. "You find me wild in the best possible way." He stepped closer. "You're unlike anyone I've ever met, because I'm alien, because you're you." A smile tugged at her lips. "You're not what I expected either, Jack. What did you expect? A cruel master, a cold bed, a life of servitude." Her voice was soft, vulnerable. Jack's chest tightened. "That's not what this is. That's not what I want." "What do you want?" she asked, her lavender eyes searching his. The question hung between them, heavy with possibility. Jack reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and tucked a strand of silver hair behind her pointed ear. Her skin was warm beneath his fingertips. "I want to know you," he said honestly. "I want this to be real, not just an arrangement." Amara leaned into his touch, her eyes fluttering closed for a moment. "My people believe in fate, Jack. Perhaps this is ours." That evening they sat on the porch swing, watching the sunset paint the sky in brilliant oranges and purples. Amara had changed into a simple dress she'd brought with her, the fabric shimmering slightly in the fading light. "Do your people have marriage ritual?" Jack asked, genuinely curious. Amara nodded. "Many, most involve binding the spirits together through shared experiences." She hesitated, then added softly, "Physical intimacy is considered the most powerful binding." Jack's pulse quickened. "Is that so?" "Yes." Her eyes met his, unguarded and honest. "It's believed that when two beings join physically, their energies intertwine in ways that transcend the physical realm." "That's beautiful," Jack said, meaning it. "Among my people, such joining is sacred, not to be rushed." Her Fingers brushed against his on the swing between them, but when it happens naturally, it's said to create a bond. That even death cannot break. Jack turned his hand over, palm up, an invitation. Amara placed her hand in his, their fingers intertwining. The simple touch felt more intimate than any he'd experienced before. I'd like to learn more about your customs, he said, his voice low. All of them. Amara's lips curved into a smile that made his heart race. I'd like to teach you. As night fell around them, stars appearing one by one in the velvet sky, Jack felt something shifting between them, something that had nothing to do with arrangements or debts and everything to do with the way Amara's eyes reflected the starlight when she looked at him. When they finally went inside, the house felt different. No longer just his space, but theirs, and as they said good night at the top of the stairs, Jack's hand lingered on hers. A moment longer than necessary. Good night, Amara. Good night, Jack, she whispered, her voice carrying a promise of tomorrow's possibilities. Jack's commune buzzed at 400, its harsh tone slicing through the peaceful silence of early morning. He reached for it, instinctively, years of military training kicking in before his conscious mind was fully awake. Commander Reeves, he answered, voice clear despite the hour. Priority Alpha, sir. Full squad mobilization. Krellel raiders hit the Artemis mining colony. Civilian casualties reported. Captain Harris's voice was tight with urgency. Jack sat up, instantly alert. 8 to 90 minutes, sir. Transports prepping now. I'll be there in 30. Jack ended the call and swung his legs over the side of the bed, running a hand through his hair. A soft knock at his door made him look up. Amara stood in the doorway, her silver hair loose around her shoulders, wearing one of his t-shirts. The sight of her made his chest tighten. You have to go, she said. It wasn't a question. Jack nodded. Duty calls. I'm sorry. How long? Her lavender eyes held his, unblinking. I don't know. Could be days. Could be weeks. He stood, moving to his closet to retrieve his gear bag. The Krellel don't surrender easily. Amara stepped into the room, her bare feet silent on the hardwood floor. The Krellel are feared even among my people. They're merciless. Jack paused, looking at her. I face them before my team knows what we're doing. She moved closer, close enough that he could smell the faint exotic scent of her skin, like cinnamon and something alien he couldn't name. My people have a ritual for warriors before battle. Oh, Jack's pulse quickened as she stepped closer. Still, it's believed that sharing life energy strengthens one's resilience against death. Her hand reached up to touch his face, her green fingers cool against his stubble cheek. Among bonded pairs, it's particularly potent. Jack swallowed hard. Is that right? Yes. Her eyes held his, unwavering. Would you accept such a blessing? In answer, Jack leaned down and pressed his lips to hers. The contact sent a jolt through his system, like electricity, but warmer, sweeter. Her lips were softer than he'd imagined, yielding, yet active against his own. When they broke apart, both breathing harder. Amamar's eyes were wide, her pupils dilated. That was unexpected. Bad unexpected? Jack asked, his hands now resting lightly on her waist. No, she shook her head, silver hair swaying. Humans taste different, stronger. It's affecting me in ways I didn't anticipate. Jack raised an eyebrow. Different? How? Your pheromones, she explained, her voice slightly husky. They're triggering responses in my biology that are intense. Is that dangerous for you? Jack asked, concerned. Despite the heat building between them, Amara laughed. The sound like music only to my self-control. My people are naturally receptive to compatible species. It's how we've survived as traders and diplomats across the galaxy, but human chemistry is particularly stimulating, so I'm basically an alien aphrodisiac. Jack grinned, pulling her closer. Crudely put, but essentially correct. Her hands slid up his chest. And we have very little time before you must leave. What followed was a blur of sensation and discovery. Their bodies moved together with an instinctive harmony that transcended their different biologies. Jack marveled at the way her skin seemed to glow faintly where he touched her. At how she responded to him with an openness that was both vulnerable and powerful. And to her afterward, as they lay tangled together, time ticking inexorably toward his departure. Amara traced the scars on his chest with gentle fingers. You faced death many times, she observed. Part of the job, Jack replied, capturing her hand and bringing it to his lips. And now you go to face it again. Her voice was steady, but he could see the worry in her eyes. I'll come back, he promised. I have more reason to now than ever before. As Jack dressed in his combat Gear Amara wrapped herself in a sheet and watched him from the bed. The domesticity of the scene struck him as both strange and right, as if they'd been together for years instead of days. "There's something else you should know," she said as he strapped on his tactical vest about what just happened. "Between us," Jack paused. "What's that?" "My people, we form bonds quickly when compatibility is high. Physical intimacy accelerates the process." She met his eyes directly. "What I'm trying to say is that I will feel your absence more acutely than you might expect." Jack crossed back to her, cupping her face in his hands. "I'll feel yours too, and that's not just some alien biology thing. That's just us." He kissed her once more, deeply, trying to memorize the feel of her. Then he stepped back, shouldering his gear bag. "The neighbors will check on you. Mrs. Chandler next door has a spare key, and Rufus, my cat, he likes the blue food, not the red." Amara nodded, her composure admirable despite the circumstances. "I will manage." Focus on returning safely at the bedroom door. Jack turned back for one last look, the image of her green skin against white sheets, silver hair tumbling over her shoulders, lavender eyes fixed on him with an intensity that made his heart race. Was one he knew would sustain him through whatever battles lay ahead. "Jack," she called as he turned to go. "Among my people we say return with your spirit intact, for it now carries part of mine." He nodded, throat suddenly tight. "I will," as his transport lifted off. 40 minutes later, Jack found himself touching his lips, still feeling the ghost of her kiss. Whatever happened with the Krellel, he had something precious to return to now, something he hadn't even known he was missing until a week ago. 3 days after Jack's departure, Amara awoke with a strange sensation in her abdomen. A gentle warmth pulsed there, unfamiliar yet somehow right. She placed her hand over the spot, feeling a faint vibration beneath her fingers. "Impossible," she whispered to the empty bedroom. Vidian human reproduction was theoretically possible, but exceedingly rare, requiring multiple encounters in specific biological compatibility, yet the signs were unmistakable. The warmth, the subtle glow beneath her skin, the heightened awareness of her surroundings, all pointed to one conclusion: she was carrying Jack's child. Amara sat on the edge of the bed, mind racing among her people. Such rapid conception was considered a blessing from the ancestors, proof of a divinely sanctioned union. But how would Jack react? Human gestation took 9 months. Vidian pregnancies lasted only 4. Their child would be born before he even had time to adjust to the idea. A knock at the front door interrupted her thoughts. Throwing on a robe, she made her way downstairs, expecting Mrs. Chandler with another casserole. Instead, she found her father standing on the porch. "Father," Amara blinked in surprise. "What are you doing here?" Thayen's face was grave. "Now we need to talk." "Daughter, may I come in?" She stepped aside, suddenly conscious of her disheveled appearance and the unmistakably human dwelling around them. Thayen entered cautiously, his eyes taking in every detail. "So this is where he's keeping you," he muttered. "He's not keeping me anywhere," Amara replied sharply. "This is my home." Now very inside his shoulder, slumping. "The High families have learned of your marriage. They're displeased. The High families have no say in my life anymore," Mars said, crossing her arms. "You don't understand. They're claiming I violated trade protocols by offering you without their approval. They're threatening to revoke our family's merchant status." He looked at her imploringly. "They want you to return home and have the marriage annulled." Amara felt a protective instinct surge through her hand moving unconsciously to her abdomen. "That's impossible now." Thayen's eyes widened as he followed the gesture. "You can't mean I carry his child," she said, lifting her chin proudly. Her father staggered back, as if struck by the ancestors so quickly. "That's a blessing," she finished firmly, "and proof that this union was meant to be." Before Thayen could respond, Amara's commune buzzed. The emergency frequency Jack had given her. She activated it immediately. "Mrs. Reeves," an unfamiliar male voice came through. "This is Lieutenant Foster. There's been an incident during the Krell engagement. Commander Reeves has been injured." The room seemed to tilt around her. "How badly?" "Stable but critical. He's being transported back to base now. 4 hours. I'll be there," she said, ending the call. With shaking fingers, Thayen watched her, his expression softening. "You truly care for this human more than care," Amara replied, already moving to dress. "We're bonded." "Then I will help you," he said unexpectedly. "The High families be damned." At the military hospital, Amara paced the sterile waiting room, her father seated nearby, several human officers, and their spouses watched her with undisguised curiosity. She heard their whispers, some sympathetic, others less so. Commander's alien bride, married only a week, some kind of arrangement. A woman in a crisp uniform approached, extending her hand. Mrs. Reeves. I'm Colonel Diane Morris. Jack serves under my command. Amara took the offered hand, nodding the firm grip. How is he? Tough as they come, the colonel replied with a tight smile. Took plasma fire, protecting civilians during evacuation. Burns across 20% of his body, but the medics got to him quickly. He'll recover. Relief flooded through Amara, so intense she swayed slightly. The colonel steadied her with a concerned look. Are you all right? Oh yes, Amara began, but a sudden sharp pain in her abdomen cut her off. She gasped, doubling over. Get a medic, Colonel Morris shouted, helping Amara to a chair. No, Amara managed through gritted teeth. Not human doctors, they won't understand. Thayan was at her side instantly. It's the bond she's feeling, his pain. Colonel Morris looked skeptical, but nodded. What do you need to see him? Omar said, straightening with effort now. Jack floated in darkness, pain, a distant thing kept at bay by medication. Something pulled at him, a tether, a connection he couldn't name but instinctively followed. He became aware of a presence beside him, a cool hand on his brow. The pain receded further. Amara, he murmured, though his lips didn't seem to move. I'm here, came her voice, not in his ears but in his mind. Follow my energy back. Jack felt something flow between them, a current of warmth and light. His consciousness rose toward it like a swimmer toward the surface. He opened his eyes to find Amara leaning over him, her hands on his chest. A soft glow emanating from where they touched. Her face was strained with concentration, sweat beading on her brow. What are you doing? He managed to rasp. Sharing strength, she whispered. It's draining, but it will speed your healing. Jack became aware of others in the room. Medical staff watching in amazement as the monitors showed his vitals improving rapidly. You shouldn't exhaust yourself, he said, catching her wrist weakly. Amara smiled, though he could see the effort it cost her. I'm stronger than I look. Besides, I'm not alone anymore. Her meaning didn't register immediately, then her free hand moved to her abdomen, and understanding dawned. He couldn't finish the sentence, overwhelmed. Yes, she confirmed, her lavender eyes shining. Our energies combined in ways neither of us anticipated. Jack felt a surge of emotions, shock, wonder, fear, and beneath it all, a fierce joy. How is that even possible so quickly? It's extremely rare, she explained. My people call it soul recognition, when two beings are so perfectly matched that life springs forth from their first union. A doctor cleared his throat awkwardly. Commander, your vitals are stabilizing remarkably. Whatever she's doing, it's working. Jack couldn't take his eyes off Amara. She's saving my life again. As medical staff continued monitoring his improved condition, Jack pulled Amara closer. Mindful of his injuries, there's something else, isn't there? You're worried. She nodded slightly. My father's here. The high families of my world want our marriage annulled, and now they'll have to accept it, she said with quiet determination. I've made my choice. Jack squeezed her hand, feeling the connection between them pulsing stronger. Whatever challenges lay ahead, cultural differences, family disapproval, or the dangers of his profession, they would face them together, and with a third heartbeat now joining their bond, they had even more reason to succeed. 2 weeks after Jack's injury, their home had become an unexpected hub of activity. Jack sat on the porch, his healing burns covered by regenerative patches, watching with amusement as yet another curious visitor approached. Commander Reeves called Mrs. Chandler, their elderly neighbor, carrying what appeared to be her third casserole of the week. I brought dinner for you and your lovely wife. That's very kind, Jack replied, rising carefully to accept the dish, but you really don't have to keep feeding us, Mrs. Chandler waved dismissively. Nonsense. A man healing from battle wounds and an expecting mother need proper nourishment. She leaned closer, lowering her voice. Is it true what they're saying? I am that the baby will be born in just 3 months. Jack nodded, unable to suppress a proud smile. Vidian pregnancies progress faster than human ones. Remarkable, Mrs. Chandler exclaimed, and to think just a month ago you were a bachelor. She patted his arm. The whole neighborhood is talking about you two, first human Vidian couple in our colony. Such a romantic story. As Mrs. Chandler departed, Jack carried the casserole inside to find Amara in the living room, surrounded by data pads displaying Vidian and human infant care information. Her abdomen already showed a slight curve, her skin glowing with an inner luminescence that fascinated him. "Another offering from Mrs. Chandler?" Amara asked, looking up with a smile. "The woman is determined to fatten us both." "Up," Jack replied, setting the dish aside to join her on the couch. "How are you feeling?" "Strong," she said, taking his hand and placing it on her belly. "The little one is thriving," Jack marveled at the warmth beneath his palm. "I still can't believe how quickly everything's happening." "Too quickly for your comfort?" Amara asked, a hint of vulnerability in her voice. Jack leaned in to kiss her forehead. "Not at all, just differently than I expected when I agreed to marry you. I thought I was getting a housekeeper. Instead, I got a miracle." Amara's eyes shimmered with emotion. "Among my people, unexpected blessings are considered the most precious kind." Their moment was interrupted by the chime of the comm unit. Jack activated it to reveal Colonel Morris's stern face. "Commander, we've received a formal diplomatic request from Vidian representatives. They're demanding an audience with you and your wife tomorrow at 900. Jack felt Amara tense beside him. "The High families," she whispered. "We'll be there," Jack confirmed, ending the call. Amara stood packing nervously. "They won't make this easy, Jack. Vidian nobility values bloodlines, and arranged matches. Our union threatens centuries of tradition." "Let them try to separate us," Jack said, his jaw set with determination. "They'll find humans aren't easily intimidated." Amir turned to him, her expression softening. "That's what fascinates us about your species, your defiance in the face of overwhelming odds, your certainty that you'll prevail regardless of the circumstances. Is that what attracted you to me?" Jack asked, pulling her gently into his arms. "My human stubbornness," that she murmured, her fingers tracing the line of his jaw, and other uniquely human qualities there. Lips met in a kiss that quickly deepened the connection between them, flaring with intensity since his injury. Their physical relationship had been necessarily restrained, but Jack's recovery was progressing rapidly. Another benefit of their bond, according to Amara later that evening as they lay entwined in their bed, Amara's head resting on his chest, Jack broached the subject that had been weighing on his mind. "After tomorrow we should discuss my career," he said quietly. "Comet deployment might not be compatible with fatherhood." Omar propped herself up to look at him. "You're considering leaving the military?" "Considering my options," Jack clarified. "There are administrative positions, training roles, ways to serve without being on the front lines." "You would do that?" Amara asked, surprise evident in her voice. "For us, for our family," Jack replied, his hand resting protectively over their growing child. "I've spent my life fighting. Maybe it's time to build something instead." Amara's eyes glistened in the dim light. "My father warned me that humans were dangerous, that your kind takes what you want without consideration. He was wrong about so many things." "Not entirely," Jack said with a wry smile. "We can be pretty single-minded when we want something." He traced the curve of her cheek. "And right now what I want most is to create a life worthy of you and our child." The next morning they dressed with particular care, Jack in his formal military uniform, Amara in a flowing Vidian gown that accommodated her changing figure while displaying her cultural heritage, ready for battle. Jack asked as they prepared to leave. Omar straightened his collar, her touch lingering. "Aha, with you beside me always." The military headquarters diplomatic chamber was imposing, all gleaming metal and stark efficiency. 3 Vidian dignitaries waited inside, their elaborate robes and stern expressions contrasting sharply with the utilitarian human decor. Colonel Morris greeted them at the entrance. "They've been here for an hour inspecting everything and finding it wanting," she muttered. "Diplomatic headaches are not what I signed up for," Commander A. Weln assured her as they entered. The eldest Vidian rose, his silver fleck green skin identifying him as a member of the most ancient bloodlines. "Amar, daughter of Thayan," he intoned formally. "You stand accused of violating the sacred customs of lineage preservation." "And how do you answer?" Before Amara could speak, Jack stepped forward. "She answers as my wife and the mother of my child. Any accusations against her must go through me first." The Vidian's eyes narrowed. "Human, you do not understand our ways, then enlighten me," Jack replied evenly. "Because from where I stand it seems you're attempting to interfere with a lawful union and a blessed pregnancy." The word blessed caused a ripple of reaction among the Vidians. They exchanged glances, their haughty demeanor faltering slightly. A true blessing cannot come from an arranged debt settlement, the elder insisted though. With less conviction, Amra moved to stand beside Jack, her head held high. Yet it has, our energies merged on first union. Elder Pax, our child grows strong within me. Would you deny the will of the ancestors? The diplomatic confrontation had begun. And with it, the next chapter of their unexpected journey together. The tension in the diplomatic chamber crackled like static electricity. Elder Pax's face had darkened to a forest green, a sign of agitation among Vidians. The will of the ancestors is not for you to interpret. Child, he snapped at Amara before the situation could escalate further. The chamber doors slid open. A distinguished human man with silver temples and the insignia of an admiral strode in, accompanied by a striking blue-skinned Andorian woman. That's enough, Elder Pax, the admiral said, his voice carrying the weight of authority. This meeting is now under Galactic Alliance jurisdiction. Colonel Morris snapped to attention. Admiral Harrington, sir, we weren't expecting you at ease. Colonel, Admiral Harrington's gaze swept the room before settling on Jack and Amir. Commander Reeves. Mrs. Reeves, I apologize for the intrusion, but your situation has attracted attention at the highest levels. Elder Pax bristled. This is a Vidian cultural matter. It's an inter-species diplomatic incident with far-reaching implications, the admiral corrected firmly, and as the Alliance's special envoy for inter-species relations, it falls under my purview. The Andorian woman stepped forward. Perhaps introductions are in order. I am Dr. Thera, xenobiologist, and the admiral's wife of 15 years. Understanding dawned on Jack. Admiral Harrington was one of the first high-ranking human officers to marry an alien. His union with Dr. Thera had caused similar controversy years ago. Now, the admiral continued, I suggest we discuss this civilly as befits representatives of advanced civilizations before anyone could respond. Amara gasped sharply. Doubling over, Jack was at her side instantly, supporting her as she clutched her abdomen. Amara, what's wrong? Her skin had palled to a mint hue, her breathing shallow. The baby, something's not right. Dr. Thera moved with surprising speed. Medical scanner already in hand. Her vitals are fluctuating. The fetus is in distress. She looked up, her blue features set with determination. We need to get her to medical immediately. I'll carry her, Jack said, already lifting Amar into his arms, heedless of his own healing injuries. This way, Colonel Morris directed, leading them through a side door that connected directly to the base's medical facility. The Vidian elders followed their earlier hostility, replaced by genuine concern. Elder Pax spoke rapidly into a communication device in his native tongue. In the medical bay, human doctors looked bewildered as they scanned Amara's unique physiology. Her biochemistry is shifting, one physician reported. We're not equipped for Vidian obstetrics, let alone a hybrid pregnancy. Move aside, came a commanding voice as Thayan pushed through the crowd, accompanied by an elderly Vidian female carrying an ornate case. This is Healer Mira. She specializes in reproductive health. Jack reluctantly stepped back, allowing the Vidian healer access to Amara. The old woman's hands moved with practiced precision, applying glowing substances to specific points on Amra's abdomen while chanting in a low melodic language. The human genetic material is strong, healer Mira explained between chants. It's accelerating the development beyond even Vidian norms. Her body is struggling to adapt. Dr. Thera joined her, comparing readings, fascinating. The fetal development is creating unique energy patterns I've never seen before. Jack paced anxiously, feeling helpless. Can you help her together? Perhaps, Healer Mira said. Your bond with her is part of this. Come. Jack approached the examination table where Amara lay, her face contorted in pain. He took her hand and immediately felt a surge of energy between them. The bond is strong, Healer Mira observed, but incomplete. The ritual was never properly finished. What ritual? Jack asked. The binding of souls, the explained, normally performed before conception. It stabilizes the energetic connection between partners. Then let's do it now, Jack insisted. Elder Pax stepped forward. It's not that simple. The ritual requires, I don't care what it requires. Jack interrupted. If it will save them, I'll do it. The elderly healer nodded. Approvingly, this is why human Vidian unions are so powerful. Your determination breaks through our cautious traditions. She instructed Jack to place one hand on Amara's heart and the other on her abdomen. Now focus on your connection to her. Feel the energy that flows between you. Jack closed his eyes, concentrating on the bond he'd felt growing since their first night together. He recalled the warmth of her smile, the sound of her laughter, the way her lavender eyes lit up when she looked at him. More than physical attraction, more than convenience, what had begun as an arrangement had blossomed into something profound. "I love you," he whispered, the words coming naturally beneath his palm. He felt a pulse of energy, not just from Amara but from their child, a three-way connection strengthening with each heartbeat. The room fell silent as a soft glow emanated from where their bodies connected. Amara's breathing steadied, her color returning to its normal vibrant green. "Extraordinary," Dr. Thera murmured, scanning the phenomenon. "The energy patterns are stabilizing." Amara's eyes fluttered open, finding Jack's immediately. "I felt you," she said softly. "Both of you." Healer Mira stepped back, satisfaction evident in her ancient face. "The bond is complete now. The child will develop normally, though normal for this unique combination remains to be seen." Admiral Harrington had observed the entire process with keen interest. As the medical crisis subsided, he approached Jack and Amara. "What we've witnessed here today is precisely why the Alliance needs representatives like you two," he said. "Your union bridges worlds and diplomats have failed to achieve for decades." "Representatives?" Jack questioned. "Official ambassadors for human-alien integration," the Admiral clarified. "The galaxy is watching your story unfold, Commander. A marriage arranged to settle a debt, transformed into a genuine bond that creates new life and brings different species together in crisis." Jack looked at Amara, who now sat up, cradling her abdomen protectively. "That would mean a significant change in our lives and protection from those who might interfere with your family," Admiral Harrington added, glancing meaningfully at the Vidian elders. "Diplomatic immunity extends to family units." Elder Pack stepped forward, his demeanor transformed. "Perhaps we have been hasty in our judgment. What we witnessed here suggests the ancestors do indeed favor this union." Thayan couldn't suppress a smile. "As I told you they would." As the room buzzed with discussion about diplomatic implications and medical marvels, Jack sat beside Amara, their foreheads touching, their hands entwined over their child. "Some honeymoon, huh?" he murmured. Amara laughed softly. "Among my people there's a saying, the path with the most obstacles leads to the greatest treasures." Jack kissed her gently. "Then we must be headed somewhere incredible." 3 months after the medical crisis, Jack stood on the balcony of their new diplomatic residence, watching the twin moons of Vidia rise over the capital city's gleaming spires. The journey from reluctant groom to inner species ambassador had been swift and unexpected, much like everything else in his relationship with Amara. "Beautiful, isn't it?" Thayan joined him, offering a glass of Vidian spirits. "I never imagined my daughter would bring a human to our ancestral home, let alone as an honored diplomat." Jack accepted the drink with a nod. "Life has a way of surprising us. A few months ago, I was just a soldier complaining about my messy house," Thayan chuckled, "and I was a desperate father with mounting debts." His expression grew serious. "I owe you an apology, Jack. Using my daughter to settle a debt was not my proudest moment." "Maybe not," Jack agreed, "but it led to something neither of us could have predicted." He glanced through the open doorway to where Amara sat in a rocking chair, cradling their newborn son. Thayan followed his gaze, pride evident in his features. "Nexer is a remarkable child, the first of his kind, the healers say. His dual heritage gives him unique abilities," Jack said. "They're already talking about him as if he's some kind of bridge between worlds. Is that not what he is?" Thayan raised his glass to new beginnings. Inside, Amra hummed a Vidian lullaby to little Nexer, whose skin was a lighter shade of green than hers, with subtle golden undertones that caught the light. His eyes, when open, were a striking blue with flecks of lavender, a perfect blend of his parents. The formal blessing ceremony would take place tomorrow in the Great Temple, with representatives from both human and Vidian governments in attendance. What had begun as a private arrangement had become a symbol of interspecies cooperation with their small family. At The center of it all, Jack excused himself from Thayan and moved to join his wife and son. Amamar looked up as he approached, her face glowing with contentment. He just fell asleep, she whispered. He's so peaceful here. Jack knelt beside them, gently touching Nexer's cheek. The baby stirred slightly, his tiny hand reflexively grasping Jack's finger with surprising strength. He knows his father, Amara said softly. I still can't believe he's ours, Jack murmured, that any of this is real. Amara shifted Nexer to one arm and reached for Jack's hand with her free one. Do you regret it being thrust into all this? Jack shook his head without hesitation. Not for a second, though. I admit when your father first suggested marrying you, I thought he was joking, and I spent a week crying over being sold to a human, Amara recalled with a wry smile, until I saw you standing there looking as nervous as I felt. I wasn't nervous, Jack protested with mock indignation. I was strategically contemplative. Amara laughed, the sound causing Nexer to stir. Again, is that what you call it? I distinctly remember your hands shaking when you took mine. Combat-ready reflexes, Jack insisted, leaning in to kiss her lightly. Besides, I wasn't the one whose tears dried up the moment our eyes met. You noticed that? Omar asked, a blush darkening her cheeks. I noticed everything about you, Jack admitted. Still, their tender moment was interrupted by a soft knock. Admiral Harrington stood in the doorway, his Andorian wife beside him. Forgive the intrusion, the Admiral said. We wanted to pay our respects before tomorrow's ceremony. Jack stood to greet them. Admiral, Doctor, please come in. Dr. Thura moved immediately to Amara, her clinical interest barely concealing her excitement. May I? She asked, gesturing to the baby. Amra nodded, carefully transferring Nexer to the Andorian's blue arms. Dr. Thura examined him with gentle expertise. Remarkable, she murmured. His energy signature is unlike anything I've recorded. The perfect synthesis of human resilience in Vidian sensitivity. Admiral Harrington observed with a proud smile. He's going to change everything you know already. Applications for interspecies marriage licenses have increased 300% across Alliance space. People just needed to see it was possible, Jack said, moving to stand beside Amara, his hand resting protectively on her shoulder. More than possible, the Admiral corrected. Desirable. Your story has captured imaginations everywhere. The arranged marriage that became a love story for the ages. The media can't get enough of it. Amara looked up at Jack with a mischievous smile. Perhaps we should write a book. How to fall in love with your debt settlement. Jack laughed. I'm not sure that's a universally applicable strategy. Speaking of strategies, Admiral Harrington said, his tone shifting to business. The diplomatic summit next month will focus on formalizing interspecies family rights. We'd like you both to lead the human Vidian delegation. Us? Amara asked, surprised. We're hardly experts in diplomacy, but you are experts in making the impossible work, Dr. Thura said, returning Nexer to Amara's arms. Sometimes the best diplomats are those who live the reality others only theorize about. After the Admiral and his wife departed, Jack and Amara retreated to the nursery, placing Nexer in the ornate crib that had been a gift from the Vidian high families, the same elders who had initially opposed their union. It's strange, Amamar amused as they watched their sons sleep. My father arranged our marriage to settle a debt, but in doing so he created something priceless. Jack wrapped his arms around her from behind, resting his chin on her shoulder. I got the better end of that deal, no question. Did you? Amara turned in his embrace, her lavender eyes meeting his. A messy soldier with combat reflexes, and a cat with picky eating habits. The mess is gone, the reflexes come in handy, and Rufus has adapted remarkably well to Vidian cuisine, Jack countered, pulling her closer. Plus, I got you and him a family I never knew I wanted until I had it. Omar's hand slid up his chest, coming to rest at the nape of his neck. Among my people, there's a belief that souls who are meant to find each other will do so regardless of the circumstances. Perhaps all the arrangements and debts were just the universe's way of bringing us together. Then I owe the universe a debt I can never repay, Jack murmured against her lips as they stood in the soft glow of Vidia's moons, their son sleeping peacefully beside them. Jack marveled at the journey that had brought them here, from a casual conversation about household chores to becoming symbols of interspecies harmony. Their path had been anything but conventional. Yet somehow in all the chaos and unexpected turns, they had found exactly where they were meant to be together. And that was worth all the tears, all the doubts, all the challenges they had faced and would face in the future. For what had begun as an arrangement had blossomed into the greatest adventure of their lives 1 year after Nexer's blessing ceremony. Jack and Amara finally managed to carve out a rare evening alone. Their diplomatic duties had taken them across the galaxy. Their son had become a symbol of interspecies harmony, and private moments had become precious commodities. The balcony of their Vidian estate overlooked the glittering capital, now dotted with human establishments alongside traditional alien architecture. A visual representation of the integration they'd helped foster. Ambassador Reeves' Amara approaching Jack from behind with 2 glasses of champagne. She'd adopted human formal wear for the evening, a silken dress that clung to her curves in ways that made Jack's pulse quicken. Your presence is requested for some private negotiations. Jack turned, his breath catching at the sight of her. The moonlight played across her emerald skin, making it shimmer like polished jade. What's on the diplomatic agenda tonight? Cultural exchange, she replied, with a mischievous smile, handing him a glass. Very thorough cultural exchange. Jack pulled her close with his free arm, his fingers tracing the exposed skin of her back. I've always been an advocate for immersive learning experiences, I've noticed, Amara whispered against his ear. Your diplomatic techniques have improved considerably since our first encounter. Practice makes perfect, Jack murmured, his lips finding the sensitive spot at the junction of her neck and shoulder that always made her gasp. Omra's lavender eyes darkened with desire. Do you remember our first night? How nervous we both were. I remember being completely unprepared for how Vidian biology sunny responds to human touch. Jack's hand slid lower down her back. The way your skin glows when I Jack. Amara laughed playfully, swatting his arm. Not out here where anyone could see. Let them see, he growled playfully. We're supposed to be promoting interspecies relations, aren't we? I believe the alliance had something more formal in mind, she countered, though she made no move to step away from his embrace. They sipped their champagne in comfortable silence, bodies pressed together, enjoying the rare moment of solitude. Their bond had deepened over the months, the initial physical attraction evolving into something far more profound, though no less passionate. You know, Jack said thoughtfully, when I agreed to marry you, I thought I was getting someone to clean my house and feed my cat, and instead you got a diplomat who keeps you in meetings all day and a son who keeps you up all night, Amara teased. I got everything I never knew I wanted, Jack corrected, setting aside his glass to cup her face in his hands. And more than any man deserves. Amara's eyes softened. The binding of souls grows stronger each time we connect, the healers say. It's unprecedented, the energy we generate together. Is that what they're calling it now? Energy? Jack's eyebrows rose suggestively. Among other things, Amara replied with a laugh. There's an entire research department studying our compatibility. Should we give them more data to analyze? Jack suggested, his hand sliding down to her waist. Amara set her glass aside and wound her arms around his neck. I believe that would be the responsible thing to do for science. Of course, for science, Jack agreed solemnly, though his eyes danced with mischief and diplomacy. And because, Amara added, rising on tiptoes to brush her lips against his. Despite all logic and arrangement and duty, I find myself hopelessly in love with my human husband. As their lips met in a kiss that promised much more to come, Jack reflected that some debts could never be fully repaid and some arrangements led to rewards beyond imagination. And as Amara guided him inside to their bedroom, her green skin already beginning to glow with anticipation, he silently thanked whatever twist of fate had led Thayan to offer his daughter's hand in marriage on that fateful evening. Some might call it luck, others destiny. Jack simply called it the best deal he'd ever. The end.